Good morning. I pray that you had a wonderful afternoon and you're having a blessed morning. Now, we'll begin first with a prayer from Paul in Ephesians 3, verses 16 to 20. It says that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might by his Spirit in the inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. When we read the Bible, we should think on the words, meditate on the words. What does it mean that he can do abundantly, far more than I could ever ask or think? Is it simply that he can give me all the riches in the world and those, earthly things? David said, "Help me to number my days." We must recognize that our time here on earth is very short, and our experience here on earth has eternal consequences. The only thing that we will take with us to heaven is our character. And if that is true, it means that we must be actively working to make sure that that character is fit for heaven. If it is that you do not like reading your Bible now, if it is that you find spending more than a half an hour with the Lord, then that means that you're not ready for heaven. God is not going to change you on that day. God is not going to give to you that desire if you have not already been seeking for it or received it prior to his coming. So this is something that you have to do. It's just like a marriage. You don't generally, there were times when people would have arranged marriages. But generally, you don't marry someone and then afterwards try to find the love for the person. You tend to have the love for the person, then you marry them. And the Bible uses marriage many times to depict the relationship with God. So is the idea of perfection something that the Bible actually states? And why is it important? Okay, so 2 Peter 3, verses 10 onward says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat." So it speaks about the coming of the Lord, and then it says, knowing that his coming will, result in the destruction of earth, you ought to be perfect prior to that coming, and that perfection that you achieve will hasten his coming. I'll give you some other verses which speak about perfection and speak about what that will be what that will be like in our lives. So it says, "What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein?" Romans 6, 1-2. "Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. For he that is dead is freed from sin." Romans 6, 6-7. "For sin shall not have dominion over you, for ye are not under the law, but under grace." Romans 6, 14. "Being then made free from sin, ye became the servants of righteousness." Romans 6, 8. And then, of course, the very famous command of Jesus himself, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." Matthew 5:48. And lastly, "Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. Jude 24. So I've given you these verses that you should think on. And I want you to think on these verses. And, there's a saying that a man persuaded against his will is of the same opinion. So this is just information that you can research for yourself, and you can ask God to convict you if that is his desire. Now, to make it practical, how do we make this practical? One practical step in seeking after perfection is recognizing that by beholding we become changed. We're told that we should guard the avenues of our mind. We're told that we should seek to ensure that no evil thing is before us. Just to give an example, when I was around 18 years old, I was doing my A-levels back home in Jamaica. And I was also doing a stenograph course. And in that stenograph course, you learn how to write in shorthand. So one day when I went to school, or evening school, to complete those studies, I took my notes and then I went home that evening and I was just reviewing the notes. When I opened the book, everything was written in steno. So having had about maybe 4 weeks at that point of stenograph studies, my mind had gone into that mode that every time I took notes, I wrote it in steno. And after that, I really had to concentrate to not make that mistake again. Not that it was a bad thing, but you want to be writing in English, because if you forget and write the exam in steno, you're going to fail. So I had to be intentional, because what I had been seeing had begun to change how my mind took in information. And that is one of the things that God desires. He says that we should give him our will. In Philippians 2, it says that, let me just read that for you. So Philippians 2:13, it says, verse 12 actually. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So you have to give your will to the process. God can only do for you what you are willing to do. It says in 13, for it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. And in 14 it says, do all things without murmurings and disputing. It is difficult to put aside what we have considered normal. It is difficult to put aside what has become so much a part of us. But we are promised in Romans 12, verse 2, that it says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We can reach perfection. We can do that by ensuring that the things that we see, the things that we watch, the things that we listen to are in accordance with the will of God. As he said in Psalms 101 verse 3, we should put no evil things before our eyes. So I would suggest that you look back at those verses that I shared, and not just look at them, meditate on them. Ask the Lord, is this what you're calling me to? And ask him, what is it? What besetting sin do I need to lay upon the altar, that there is nothing between you and my soul? Have a great day.